Hello and welcome to Your Choice 2024 primary election coverage on HOMTV. I'm Danisha McDowell. Today, we're here for a candidate interview with Penelope Tsernoglou, Democratic incumbent candidate running for 75th District State Representative in the Michigan State Legislature. Penelope, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Before we get started, we would like to give you the opportunity to briefly introduce yourself to our viewers, please.
Absolutely. As you said, I'm currently the state representative in the 75th House District, and I live in East Lansing. I've been serving for about a year and a half now. I chair the Elections Committee. I'm on Criminal Justice, Judiciary, Insurance and Financial Services, and Housing. And I really enjoying this job, and I look forward to talking more about it with you.
Thank you. Each 75th District candidate will be asked a standard list of questions, starting with question number 1. Explain how your education and professional background make you an ideal candidate for the 75th District Representative and State Legislature.
Sure. So I think that being a representative right now is really what makes me an ideal candidate, because nothing really could have fully prepared me for this job, which is something I learned once I started. But some things that I did feel were helpful is I'm an attorney, so that kind of gave me some insight into bill language and interpreting, drafting some of that legal language. Also, that was very helpful being on the Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee, because I have some past experience with a lot of the issues that we talk about there. Also, being a former business owner, I found to be very useful in just understanding some of the needs of our business community. Also, I did a lot of past work with elections and voting type issues, so that's really helpful to me to have that prior knowledge as chair of the Elections Committee. And also being a county commissioner really gave me some good experience just with government and budgeting and pretty much everything that kind of goes along with that. So yeah, lots of different experiences. And what I've really found is that any experience that someone might bring to the legislature is really valuable, because there's just so much that gets covered. So really finding your niche and where you can be most helpful is important.
Thank you. The next question, please tell us about the communities and people of the 75th District and how you plan to meet their needs.
Sure. So the 75th House District is really a wonderful combination of rural and suburban areas, as well as East Lansing, which is where I live, which is a college town. And what I found is that when I went door to door was that most people really just cared about the same basic things. They wanted good education, they wanted good health care, clean air and water, good jobs. So there's definitely a lot of similarities. Certainly some differences in needs around the district. I've been taking the time to learn about some of the farms in our area, as well as the transit needs in some of our more rural communities. Also partnering with MSU for some of the needs that they have, since a lot of the off-campus population is in my district, and also Meridian Township. I've been working with Meridian Township on obtaining funding for the senior center. So lots of different needs across the district, and I just plan to continue communicating and find ways that we can all work together.
Thank you. The next several questions will cover prominent issues throughout the state of Michigan. In 2022, Proposal 2 was passed by Michigan voters. This proposal brought numerous changes to elections in Michigan and the ways people can vote. Now that these changes have been put in practice, can you tell me your thoughts about these changes?
Sure. So implementing Proposal 2 was my first big project as a legislator because it was left to the elections chairs in both the House and the Senate to do the implementation legislation for everything that was in Proposal 2. So I worked with the Secretary of State, the Senate, the voting rights groups, and all of the clerks associations. We had countless hours of work groups to talk over all of these changes and make sure that we implemented them in the best way possible. And also on an expedited timeline so that the clerks could pilot these changes ahead of some of the larger elections. As for the actual changes, I think they're good. I think they're great. I think they really increase voter access with early voting, more drop boxes all over the state, prepaid postage, permanent absentee voter list. All of this is good for voter access. And in fact, this year we passed 35 new election laws, and Michigan is now one of the top states in voter access and democracy. And then if you'll indulge me for a minute on this topic, we passed laws repealing the ban on ride to the polls. We enacted pre-registration for 16 and 17-year-olds. We removed the unnecessary challenges to students' ballots. We enacted some of the first regulations on political deepfakes and AI-generated ads. We also did the nation's first automatic voter registration that included returning citizens. And there's probably one or two that I'm forgetting, but we did a lot in the elections space over this past year and a half. So I'm really excited that I got to be part of that work.
In 2022, Michigan voters also passed Proposal 3, the right to reproductive freedom in Michigan. Please share your stance on abortion and the governing of abortion in both Michigan and the United States.
Yeah, so I think Michigan voters spoke loud and clear with Proposal 3. We're a pro-choice state, and I'm a pro-choice legislator. One of the major things that we did this year was repealing an almost 100-year-old ban on abortion. We also passed the Reproductive Health Care Act and now I'm losing the word for it, but many other very forward-thinking legislation on fertility care and health care in our legislature. So I was a sponsor on 2 of those bills, and one of the things that to me really stood out this year is this issue became very personal for me when the Alabama court made the ruling on IVF and essentially ending it in that state for a while because I am personally an IVF mom and for me, my family is everything, and without IVF, I wouldn't be a mom. And millions of others would also, be denied the, ability to be parents if we were to have more laws like this pass. So I was just shocked that judges and politicians would interfere in this very personal space. I think we all have a right to decide how, when, and if we want to start a family. And I think that these reproductive rights really continue to be under attack at a state and a national level. And it's one of my top priorities to protect those rights however we can.
Share your thoughts on Michigan's current infrastructure and any improvements you hope to see.
So it's no secret that Michigan's infrastructure is aging and badly in need of repair. Whether it's sewer systems or roads or bridges, all of that infrastructure, we need to invest. In our current budget, we are investing a lot more in all the different types of infrastructure. including transit grants and just all types of funds going into different ways to improve our current infrastructure. We know it's not going to be enough. We know that a lot more funding is going to be needed in future years. One big thing we did do this year in regards to infrastructure is we really laid the groundwork for our state's clean energy infrastructure going forward. So we are continuing to work on it.
How do you plan to address economic instability and inflation within the state?
Inflation in Michigan is slowing down. Thankfully, it went from 15 to 5%. Definitely not enough. We need to do much more. So right now, the Democrats in the legislature are looking to move money from the SOAR fund, millions of dollars of investment into community investments like affordable housing, public transit, childcare, and workforce development. So we're hoping that those investments will address some of that need.
Please address the preservation of Michigan's natural resources.
There's a lot to do here, and that certainly covers a lot. But one thing that I'm doing and working on is I have a bill right now, the PFAS Hazardous Product Act, to protect our watersheds and our citizens from PFAS. PFAS are they're harmful chemicals. They never break down. They are in almost all products now, from children's products, cosmetics, cookware, firefighting foam, clothing, and they don't need to be in all of those products. So what my bill does is it phases out intentionally added PFAS when there's other alternatives available. Because when those PFAS are being put in the products during the manufacturing products, the chemicals are released into the environment, and then in some cases when we come in contact with them, they're actually absorbed into our bodies. So the environmental effects and the health effects are really tremendous. So I'm working on advancing that particular bill. And recently, one big thing that did happen was President Biden passed PFAS drinking water standards nationally. So there is progress being made in that area. And just wanted to highlight that particular piece that I'm working on.
Share your thoughts on and any plans for school safety throughout the state.
Sure. So a lot is kind of happening right now with school safety. In 2021, I wasn't part of the legislature, but the legislature did develop a bipartisan task force to address school safety. This was following the Oxford shootings. And the task force was looking at mental health, physical security, staffing, data, all kinds of components to try to address school safety. One part of it that was originally in there was gun safety, and we've already begun addressing that last year when we passed universal background checks, extreme risk protection orders, and safe storage. For a start, personally, I would like to do a lot more with gun safety, because I think that that is directly tied to school safety. But gun issues, safety was taken out of the task force's purview because it became a very partisan issue, and they wanted to keep the task force bipartisan and not political, so that they could really do their best to address school safety with keeping politics out of it. So that piece was separated out. But the task force did end up making recommendations, and a bill package based on those recommendations was introduced, and it had its first hearing in March. Some of those recommendations were a threat assessment management team, which would be a mental health professional, a school administrator, and a resource or law enforcement officer. Also, there was a bill that would require the Michigan State Police to notify the ISD and the local law enforcement within 24 hours of any threats that were received. There was another bill to have the Michigan State Police develop a terminology plan, just so that people were using the same vocabulary and the same words in an emergency situation to avoid any type of confusion. And then another bill to develop a mental health commission within the and safety commission in the schools. So those are kind of working their way through the legislature right now, and I support all of those efforts as well as stronger gun safety efforts.
Recently, Michigan's automotive companies have experienced challenges related to consumer interests in electric vehicles and labor group interest in wage increases. How do you think the state of Michigan should be involved in supporting these companies?
So again, in 2021, the legislature started the SOAR Fund, which has given out $1.7 billion to GM and Ford and other companies that are looking to build the EV industry in Michigan. And aside from those huge investments, we're continuing to look at ways that we can build the EV infrastructure all across Michigan. For example, one bill allows operators of charging stations to resell the electricity without having to be regulated in the same way as utilities. So we're really just looking for all ways that we can lay that infrastructure for EV and help build the industry around the state.
We've reached our final question. Please provide a closing statement sharing your goals for your district and the state.
Sure. So it's really truly been an honor to serve the 75th House District, and I just want to continue my work for increasing voter access, expanding healthcare access, advocating for working families and education, protecting our environment, and bringing resources back to our communities.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Penelope. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this candidate interview with Penelope Tsernoglou, Democratic incumbent candidate running for Michigan's 75th District State Representative in the Michigan State Legislature. I'm Danisha McDowell. Thank you for watching.